You water your tomatoes in the evening, gently, lovingly, the exact same way your grandmother did. And that one habit is quietly killing your plants. Right now, somewhere in your garden, a microscopic water mold is waiting. It's the same organism behind the Irish Potato Famine, and it can take a healthy, 6-foot tomato plant, loaded with green fruit, and turn it into a brown, collapsed skeleton in under 2 weeks. That's mistake number 3. And when we get there, I'll show you the 30-second fix that stops it cold. But here's the truth. There are 5 mistakes like this. 5 things almost every gardener does in June, without ever knowing they're doing damage. June is the month that decides your whole summer. Get these 5 things right, and you'll be eating tomatoes by August. Miss even one, and you'll be staring at brown sticks by July. Let's start with mistake number 1. You pick up a tomato, it looks perfect from the top. Round, red, heavy in your hand. Then you turn it over, and the bottom has gone dark, leathery, sunken, like someone pressed a hot iron right into it. That's blossom end rot. And here's the part almost nobody gets right. It's not a disease. It's not a bug. And in most backyard gardens, it's not even a calcium problem. The University of Illinois Extension classifies it as a physiological disorder, not a pathogen at all. The University of Maryland Extension ties it directly to one thing inconsistent: shallow watering. So let's talk about the biology. Because once you understand this, you will never make this mistake again. Calcium doesn't move around freely inside a tomato plant. It travels with water, pulled up through the roots and into the fruit. As the plant drinks, now picture this. You water deeply on Monday, skip Tuesday, skip Wednesday, splash a little on Thursday, soak it again on Saturday. Every time you skip a day, the calcium delivery to that fruit gets interrupted, and the fruit is growing fastest right at the blossom end, the part farthest from the stem, so that's the part that starves first. The cells there collapse. The soil can be full of calcium, and it still happens, because the problem was never the supply. It was the delivery truck. This is why dumping eggshells in the hole or crushing up antacid tablets usually does nothing. You deserve to hear that plainly. So here's the real fix. Give your tomatoes 1 to 2 inches of water per week, delivered deeply, in 1 or 2 long soakings. Not a daily sprinkle. A daily splash only wets the top inch of soil. The roots stay shallow, and the plant panics the moment the surface dries out. Deep and infrequent does the opposite. It trains the roots to drive down where the soil stays moist. And a deep-rooted plant is a plant that can survive a brutal hot week without missing a beat. Then lay down 2 to 3 inches of straw or shredded leaf mulch over the soil. This holds that moisture steady between waterings. And before you water, do this. Push your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it's damp down there, wait. If it's dry, water deeply. That finger test is worth more than any moisture meter you'll find at the store. Now, your region changes the rhythm here. If you're gardening in sandy soil, common across the South and the coastal mid-Atlantic, water drains fast. You may need to water a little more often to keep that moisture steady. If you're on heavy clay, common across much of the Midwest, the soil holds water longer, so you water less often and let it soak in. Slow and deep, either way, the goal is the same. Steady moisture, never a drought followed by a flood. Get this right, and you get a bonus too. Consistent moisture also stops your tomatoes from cracking open overnight after one heavy rain. But here's the question. What if your watering is already perfect and your plant still won't give you fruit? That's mistake number 2. This mistake feels like love. You want big, strong, healthy plants. So you reach for the all-purpose plant food, the bright blue stuff, and you feed it rich nitrogen all season long. And the plant rewards you. It explodes. Lush, dark green, enormous, the envy of the whole neighborhood. And it gives you almost no tomatoes. The Old Farmer's Almanac has a phrase gardeners have used for generations to describe this exact trap. They say the plant goes all to vine. So let's talk about what's actually happening inside that plant. Nitrogen is the leaf and stem nutrient. It tells the plant to grow green tissue. And when there's a lot of it, the plant pours every bit of its energy into foliage, because that's the only signal you're sending it. But fruit doesn't run on nitrogen. Flowering and fruiting run on phosphorus, the middle number on the bag, and on potassium, the last number, which the plant uses to size up and ripen the fruit. A plant flooded with nitrogen and starved of that reproductive signal will just keep making leaves and keep postponing fruit. You haven't grown a tomato plant. You've grown a beautiful, oversized houseplant that happens to look like one. Oklahoma State University Extension recommends going the opposite direction. A low nitrogen, higher phosphorus blend, something like a 10-20-10, worked into the soil at planting time. That middle number, the 20, is the phosphorus that actually drives flowering. So here's your fix. Stop using the same high nitrogen, all-purpose feed from spring straight through summer. Pick up a fertilizer formulated specifically for tomatoes and vegetables. A 10-20-10 or a 5-10-10. You'll find it at any Home Depot, Lowe's, or local garden center. Side dress it lightly around the base of the plant once fruit begins to set, keeping it a few inches off the stem so it doesn't burn the roots. And if you'd rather feed the soil than the plant directly, they work a few inches of finished compost into the bed before you ever transplant. Compost releases its nutrients slowly and steadily, so it feeds the plant without ever spiking the nitrogen, the way a heavy synthetic dose does. Here's one more reason to back off the nitrogen. The North Carolina Cooperative Extension notes that an overdose of high nitrogen fertilizer can actually trigger flowers to drop right off the plant before they ever become fruit. So the very thing you thought was helping can cost you the harvest twice over. Now, you've fixed your watering. You've fixed your feeding. Your plant should be unstoppable at this point. But there's one mistake left that has nothing to do with water and nothing to do with fertilizer. It's about what you're pouring onto the leaves and when, and it is, without question, the most dangerous habit in this entire video. This is the one in the title. This is the one that kills plants. Here it is. The one in the title, the one that kills plants, and it is the most natural, most well-intentioned thing a gardener does. You water your tomatoes from above, over the leaves, and you do it in the evening, after a long, hot day. Because that feels like the kind thing to do. It is the single most dangerous habit in this entire video. Remember what I told you at the very start. A healthy, 6-foot plant turned into a brown skeleton in under 2 weeks. The same water mold behind the Irish Potato Famine. Here's exactly how the mistake does its damage. Tomatoes are vulnerable to a group of fungal and water mold diseases: early blight, Septoria leaf spot, and the worst of them, late blight. The spores of these diseases live in the soil and on old plant debris, just waiting. When you blast water down from above, or even when you water hard at the base and the soil splashes up, you fling those spores straight onto the lowest leaves. Iowa State University states this directly. The spores are spread to new leaves by splashing rain, or by overhead watering. Once a spore lands on a leaf, it needs exactly one thing to germinate and break in: Moisture. A leaf that stays wet. And what does evening watering do better than anything else? It leaves the foliage soaking wet, all through the night. Hours and hours of darkness. And damp, which is exactly the greenhouse those spores have been waiting for. Early blight and septoria will work their way up the plant, browning and dropping the leaves from the bottom. That alone can defoliate a plant and ruin your whole season. But late blight is the killer. It's not even a true fungus. It's a water mold, Phytophthora infestans. And it doesn't politely start at the bottom. It hits anywhere. It races. The University of Florida warns it can destroy a plant within days. A plant heavy with green fruit can go to brown collapse in under 2 weeks. That's the plant killer in the title. And the cruel part is that you invited it in with a watering can. So here's the fix. The 30-second change I promised you. Stop watering from overhead. Completely. Water at the base of the plant, at the soil, never on the leaves. Switch to a soaker hose or a simple drip line, the kind you can buy for $15 or $20 at any hardware store, laid right on the soil under the plant. Cornell University recommends drip over overhead watering for exactly this reason. And if you must water by hand, do it when the leaves have time to dry. Water in the morning, not the evening, so the sun dries off any splash within the hour. Instead of leaving it wet all night long, then do 3 more things. Lay down that 2 to 3 inches of mulch we already talked about. It's also a physical barrier that stops soil from splashing spores up onto the leaves. Strip off the lowest leaves on the plant. Everything within 6 to 8 inches of the ground, since those are the ones the soil infects first. And every time you cut, wipe your shears with rubbing alcohol between every single plant, so you're not carrying disease from a sick plant straight to a healthy one. On your own blades. One more thing, because catching this early changes everything. Walk your plants every couple of days. Early blight shows up as dark brown spots with little rings inside them, like a tiny bullseye. Late blight looks different and more frightening. Irregular. Water-soaked patches, sometimes with a pale, whitish fuzz on the underside of the leaf on a damp morning. If you see either one, act that day. With late blight, you are racing the clock. You've fixed the water. You've fixed the feeding. You've stopped the disease at the root. So why is your plant still not setting fruit? There's a comfortable myth in gardening that the kindest thing you can do for a plant is just leave it alone. Let it grow however it wants. With indeterminate tomatoes, the tall, vining kind that keep growing all season long. That hands-off approach quietly works against you. Here's why. Tomatoes constantly send out suckers, new shoots that pop up in the V, right where a branch meets the main stem. Left alone, every single sucker becomes a full branch, and the plant turns into a dense, tangled thicket. Air can't move through it. After rain, or even just morning dew, the inside of that thicket stays humid for hours. And humidity, trapped against the leaves, is the open door for every disease we just talked about in mistake number 3. Pinching those suckers does 2 things at once. It opens the plant up, so air flows through, and the leaves dry fast. And it redirects the plant's energy out of growing endless foliage and into the fruit it already has. Michigan State University Extension reports that removing suckers leads to bigger fruit, earlier ripening, and fewer disease problems. The University of California Master Gardener program confirms the same benefit for indeterminate varieties. The technique is simple. You can do it tonight. When a sucker is small, 1 to 2 inches long, just pinch it off with your fingers. Right in that V between the stem and the branch. Stay on top of it once a week. And it takes 5 minutes. Wipe your fingers or your snips with alcohol between plants. Now, Here's the move for when you've let it go too long. Because life happens, and most of us miss a week or 3. If a sucker has already grown into a thick shoot with several leaves, don't rip the whole thing off. Tearing out that much growth at once shocks the plant and suddenly exposes fruit that was shaded. Use what growers call Missouri pruning instead. Take clean snips and clip just the growing tip off that oversized sucker, leaving the bottom 2 sets of leaves in place. That stops it from getting any bigger and stealing energy, while keeping those leaves on the plant to shade the fruit and keep feeding it. It's the gentle way to take back control, without traumatizing the plant in the heat of June. Now, one honest note, because you deserve accurate advice, not just confident advice. This is for indeterminate tomatoes, the tall, climbing kind. If you're growing a determinate variety, the bushy, compact kind bred to set one concentrated crop, do not heavily prune it. You'll be cutting into the very growth that carries your harvest. And this matters most if you're in the South or the mountain states, where the sun is brutal. Don't over-prune. Strip too many leaves, and you expose the fruit to direct sun. It gets sun-scalded. A sunburn on the tomato. Pal. Leathery patches that rot. The leaves are the umbrella. Prune for airflow, but leave enough canopy to shade the fruit. Balance, not a buzz cut. You've done everything right now. Watered correctly, fed correctly, stopped the disease, pruned for airflow. So tell me, why is your plant still not setting fruit? You did everything right. You watered consistently. You backed off the nitrogen. You watered at the base. In the morning, you pruned for airflow. And in late June, your plant is lush, green, gorgeous, and it has stopped setting fruit completely. The flowers turn yellow, they dry up, they fall off, without ever becoming a tomato. So you panic. You assume you're doing something wrong. You start feeding more, watering more, which makes it worse. Here's the truth. The problem isn't you. The problem is the heat, and it has a name, blossom drop. Here's the mechanism, and it's purely physical. A tomato flower has to pollinate itself, and that pollen only stays viable inside a specific temperature window. Once your days climb past roughly 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and your nights stay above 72, the pollen becomes non-viable. It goes tacky, dead, and the flower can't set fruit, no matter how healthy the plant is. So it aborts the flower and drops it. The Alabama Cooperative Extension System pins that threshold at days above 85 degrees and nights above 72. Oklahoma State University Extension puts the daytime ceiling around 92, and the University of Illinois Extension confirms tomatoes drop blossoms once summer days run above 90 degrees. This is not a soil problem. It's not a feeding problem. It's a thermostat problem. And feeding the plant more does absolutely nothing. So what do you actually do? In June, in the heat, 3 things. First, give the plant afternoon shade. Drape a 30 to 40% shade cloth over the plants during the hottest part of the day. Purdue University Extension and West Virginia University Extension both recommend shade cloth in that 30 to 50% range to cut heat stress and reduce blossom drop. You can find it at Lowe's, Home Depot, or online for very little. You're not trying to block the sun. Just take the edge off the worst of the afternoon, hang it on the west and south-facing side, where that brutal late-day sun comes from, raised up on stakes or hoops, so air can still move underneath. Second, keep your watering rock steady, because a heat-stressed plant that also dries out is a plant that gives up completely. Third, and this is the long game, plant the right varieties. There are heat-set tomatoes, bred specifically to keep setting fruit in high heat. developed back in the 1990s, for exactly the southern summers that were wiping out ordinary tomatoes. Look for them by name at burpee or park seed when you plant next season, especially if you garden across the south or the lower mountain states, where 95-degree afternoons are just June. And here's the real gift in understanding this. Once you know blossom drop is just temperature, you stop blaming yourself. You stop overfeeding a plant that doesn't need it. You simply wait out the worst of the heat, knowing the plant will set fruit again. The moment the nights cool back down, it's patience, not panic. So let's pull all 5 of these together, because they're not really 5 random rules. They're 3 disciplines. Water. That's mistakes 1 and 3. How much you water and where you put it. At the base, in the morning, never on the leaves at night. Feeding. That's mistake 2. The discipline of restraint. Feed the fruit, not the foliage. And air and heat. That's mistakes 4 and 5. Open the canopy so the plant can breathe. Shade it, so the heat can't shut down the harvest. Get those 3 right in June, and your plant carries you all the way to a full August basket. And listen, a garden was never really about vegetables. It's about standing in your own backyard, in the evening, with something you grew with your own 2 hands, and handing a warm, ripe tomato to a kid who will remember it for the rest of their life. You've earned that. So if this helped you, hit subscribe. It's free. And tell me in the comments which mistake you've already made. Then go check your plants. Water at the base tomorrow morning.